phrase, love your enemies. This phrase is generally considered an essential quality of altruism. To many, it represents values of pacifism and hippie love. However, loving your enemies not only presents you as a good person, but it also can benefit you in terms of connections, protections, and positivity. My research comes from Caruthers Hall's The Mountaintop play, Dr. Martin Luther King's Loving Your Enemies speech, the Journal of Biblical Literature, Sun Tzu's Art of War, and the Journal of European Baptist Studies. For our class unit on persuasion, we are expected to watch the famous I Have a Dream speech given by Dr. Martin Luther King. Following it with Christian teachings, Dr. King is also famous for encouraging civil activists to meet hate with love. The play The Mountaintop by Caruthers Hall says that the doctor speaks with love, but he dies by hate. And given that, we might be kind of hesitant to follow in his footsteps and love enemies, or love people who seem to be aggressive or seem to be enemies. Whether they're competing coworkers at our jobs, dramatic friendships, or even people from foreign cultures. Today, I would like to discuss how loving your enemies ends up being better for you than it might actually be for your enemies. It's no doubt needed in today's world for loving your enemies. The political climate, cancel culture, and I hate everyone but you vibe of the world is not really good for anybody's mental health. Martin Luther King said in one of his sermons that some people aren't going to like the way you walk, and some people aren't going to like the way you talk. So there's no way to avoid having enemies. But, however, we have to respond to them. And human nature makes us want to protect ourselves. I think that we can agree that having enemies is a problem, and that the traditional idea of just loving them seems to expect that you are always the bigger person and always are taking on responsibility. Sun Tzu offers an alternative way to handle your enemies. He says, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Who do we keep close? People we love. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles, is also something from Sun Tzu. I take this to mean that being willing to know someone will help you in the long run, whether they end up your best friend or your worst ex. Supreme excellence rests in breaking your enemy's resistance to fighting. Sun Tzu. If you have fewer enemies, you'll have fewer problems. In a sense, loving your enemies is not so much about liking them or even caring for or about them, as it is actively not separating yourself from them, not otherizing them. Separating yourself from people basically just means that you don't know what they think about you or what they want. It can be a lot more useful to know what's going on in the social circle that you're in. Hatred is unhealthy for us, but not the other person. Being negative won't set you up for success. If you can connect with enemies, you can connect with anyone. And this is a great way to find people who will help you with your life goals. It's much easier to take on this mindset of loving your enemies than just trying to love them for the sake of loving them. Love is needed to ease the burden of life. And if you can't help being enemies, you might as well use it to your advantage. This and love might be as simple as not shunning, not hating, and not otherizing. Thank you.